Hello Magda and welcome to the studio. I'd like to ask you about being a photographer and the dangers of being a photographer, and have you had any adventures that you would like to share with us?
Plenty. There's one that comes to mind. I'm still a little bit ashamed about it, really, because look, it was in Belgium and it was in Ostend. Now, I grew up in Ostend and I was told about the dangers of the sea, to keep an eye on the tide, on the wave breakers, that there were vortex and that you really have to be careful of all of that. And also I was warned about sand and the dangers of sand. Don't dig any very deep sand pits, they can collapse, tunnels, they can collapse, and sadly every summer they do, and it's usually still, children that are the victims of that. Ostend has a yachting harbour, it has a fishing harbour, working harbour, industrial. And on the industrial part, now that was the part that we used, that was one of our hunting grounds, because what you have is everything that they don't want on their ships anymore, they just put it on the quayside, so it's old rust chains, all kinds of old nets, all kinds of stuff. And that's also where the lighthouse is, and Ostend used to be a harbour with two piers, and it was like an embrace, embracing you when you came in and loath to let you go when you were going away, whether it was for work or pleasure. But that was the area that we liked, and now there are huge works there. So they've demolished one of the piers, the east one, and they are putting a new wave breaker in, and the massive works. But we arrived there and we could immediately see that there were ropes and lots of red, and also a big sign that said no entry. But of course, as a photographer, if you want an image, then you will go to great lengths sometimes to get it, and even putting yourself in danger. I didn't know I was going to put myself in danger, but we were photographing, and there were ropes and there were prints in the sand from huge tracks, which I love photographing again. And there'd been people around there, families with children and their dogs, and suddenly everybody was gone, and I'd seen three guys coming off the rocks, and I wanted to get onto the rocks and walked there, and I saw two very wet patches and a dry one, and I thought, okay, I'll jump onto the dry patch. And I did, and immediately my foot was sucked in there, my leg went, everything went. I was holding up my camera for dear life, because that's the important bit, and luckily you weren't far behind me, and I called your name.
So yes, I rushed, heard you calling me, and I rushed across to you.
Yes, you did, and it's a pity that you didn't take the time as a photojournalist to take a photograph of it. That is an opportunity that you really missed.
Furthest thing from my mind at that moment.
No, it was, you acted brilliantly. You just grabbed hold of my hand that was not holding the camera and just yanked me out. How my shoulder didn't get dislocated, but I could see that you were also already sinking in. So it was a matter of great urgency. Got out, tried to get rid as much as possible of the mud, sand, whatever it was, that quicksand, which was very dirty, and sat on the rocks. We had a laugh about it. It was actually only when we come, and we continued to photograph, but it was actually only when we came home that the pains all started to come out, and the ifs. What if Paul hadn't been there, Paul hadn't been so close? What if it had been Paul? Would I have been able to pull him out? So now, I must admit, when we go photographing, we have an extra piece of kit with us. We do take some rope with us.
Yes. You were sunk right up to your waist in that mud, in that quicksand. That was.
Yes, but my camera was fine.
Yeah,
don't forget
yes.
it.
Well, it's a great story, Magda. Thank you very much.
Yes. In hindsight, it is. But when you look at it, really, it was a bit silly. I wouldn't advise it.
Thanks, Magda.
You're welcome.